I also want people to think of their strong friends, and think of people that may experience substance use disorder, because there's a higher rate of substance use disorder and, pancreatitis, those things that come with it during this time. So check in on your friends.
So I want to say hey to Laura Leone. She says, Congressman Davis, to the doctors, to Joe, to myself. She's sending a happy Thanksgiving. And she's thanking two community agencies along with Rush Hospital because she was able to have a turkey dinner for an unemployed family. So thank you so much, Laura. And thank you for sharing that. I want to say hey to Nellie Purnell King, who is here with us. And she says good evening to everyone. And to Dorothy Murphy, who's here with us, she also says good evening to everyone. Dr. Maya, were you talking about, Dr. Bonnie Pete? Is that who you're talking about, Bonnie Pete Thomas? The guy who is a physician by day and DJ by night, the house DJ, Pete Thomas. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, it could be also the music. I forgot that part. It could be the music, could be the activity. Who knows? But look, he over there smiling, so it's working.
Hey, you know what? I just to comment about my esteemed colleague, what you said, honestly, I think it's a combination of things. So for sure, activity, getting outside around good people. Maya, you're so right. I have a group of buddies that I work out with in the morning, and they keep me accountable. I know if I miss a day, they're gonna give me some stuff. You know how our guys are. We talk stuff to each other, and so that's good. And I think also being realistic, not having unrealistic expectations about holidays and things like that, and gifts, and not putting too much pressure on yourself is important. I'm just trying to mention things that does not involve prescribing medications. I think volunteering is important to. When you focus on giving to someone else, and maybe even volunteering at the church, asking, the pastor, do you need, for me to do anything? Sometimes when you can get yourself outside of yourself and care for others, then all of a sudden you realize that things are not as bad as you may have thought they were. And again, it might just be, so don't get me wrong. At some point you might just need a serotonin booster, which we have medications called serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And it doesn't mean you're committed to medicine forever. And my thing to my patients is, listen, I don't want to hear about something happening to you, and we have medications to help you. We're not committing you to medicine forever. We're just saying maybe just for a short time period to bridge you through this tough time. It might be just for the winter months, and we try to wean you off once the spring hits. But those are some of the things that I had to comment about. I appreciate you, Dr. Maya. You're my hero as well. Dr. James, did you have anything you wanted to comment on this?
Yeah, I was just saying, I think one of the important things, you guys have sort of mentioned it, is that first knowing that these things come and that there's not any, even though they could be a big problem, that there's not a major event. In other words, if I'm starting to feel sad and I don't know why, then I might become anxious and I might begin to get into other things that make the problem worse. But if I understand that this is something that, comes as seasons change, I first began to recognize some of these things when I was in college. And initially I thought, well, what's happening. I've been off for the summer and I'm just getting sad about now I got to go back to work and get busy doing my classwork. And but then after college, I still noticed it. And as then I went to medical school, began to learn some things that I didn't know before, and began to understand that there are some chemical things that's related to sunlight that's going on, and never really resorted to any medication. But also once I understood what was going on and had some kind of expectation that these things come because as we're getting less sunlight, the chemical changes that occur in our bodies precipitated it. And so what one is able to do is also know that, okay, this is going to happen to me. Now I need to be aware of that, and I need to look at things that I can do to kind of keep my mind off of the fact that I'm feeling a little sad. And if I'm busy doing some other things, I'm less likely to pay attention to to that feeling, even though the chemical changes are still there, but you can sort of kind of counteract it if you're aware that this is what's happening, and you're aware that I need to involve myself, as Dr. Pete said. Find some volunteer work, find some other thing, make certain that that you're not really just continue to go through these changes without really doing something yourself. Making certain that I'm not spending as much time in the sunlight, but I can get some other lights that provide some of the same kind of benefits, and to make these things available to you. But knowing the fact that these are things that are happening to you, and you don't have to get and that it's not that most, like I said, most of the time we start to feeling things, then there's an anxiety that does occur, go along with it, and now we begin to worry, and it sort of snowballs. So if we can sort of stop the snowballing effect, we can sort of deal with it in a better way. So that's important to know that this is thing that happened to everybody for the most part, and we can deal with it.
Outstanding. Well, Sandel Scott is here and she says hello to everyone. We have an anonymous question that says, in the last 6 months, I haven't, in the last 6 months, I've had 2 coworkers to commit suicide. Yes, we do have a high stress job. Are there anything that we can look for when checking on our coworkers? Are there any signs and symptoms that someone may have thoughts of suicide?
I think as we are living in a time when people seem to be more busier than we used to in the past. And I think that unless you may not necessarily pick up on things that people are going through that's subtle. And sometimes when people are going through depressions and some of these other mental disorders, they may not really be aware, but they just know that something is going on. And so the only thing that one can do is try to keep in touch with each other, your family members, your friend. Invite. One of the things that I try to talk to people about a lot is, we've gotten into the time when people hardly know anybody on their block. I mean, when I was young, we knew everybody on the block, and we communicated, and we participated with one another. So I think that we have to get back to doing more participating with each other, and I think that then makes it a lot easier for folks to sort of open up and to be more be more open to telling what's going on in their lives. Because sometimes, like I said, when you feel bad, and even if you're getting to the point that you're thinking about bad things, people feel ashamed to some extent. There's guilt. There's all kinds of different things that can keep people from opening up and really discussing it even though you may be a friend. But we're just living in a time where people are very secretive about life now. They're secretive about because we don't relate that way. When people were more open and everybody knew each other, people were more likely to say, because they felt that, okay, this is something that people are more acceptable to hearing and to talking about and not judging you. So people feel that oftentimes. But I think that just being close, being aware, making certain that we involve ourselves with each other. We don't have to really. Nothing have to be good. Doesn't have to be a holiday for us to call somebody and say, "Hey, let's go out to dinner. Let's do something together. Let's go to a movie." And I think we need to do some of those things and involve ourselves as a community, and even those people that are distant from us, give them a call. Now the technology, we can see each other, even though we might not be able to touch each other. We can see each other, we can hear each other, and we can talk to each other. And I think that we just gotta, get more involved with one another on a more regular basis. And yes, we're gonna have, I don't think that life is gonna slow down, but I think we have to slow down and take things a little bit different and be more concerned about ourselves and about each other in those kinds of ways, as opposed to some of the other noise that's going to continue, regardless of what we do, that's going to continue.
Yeah, I want to jump in because I was watching some comments in the chat, and I know Nikki And I even saw Dr. Mason chime in with a number. So, and 988 is the state number. So there are numbers that people, if you know somebody, you can call, maybe get information, or you could just suggest to somebody that they call one of the numbers that have been added to the comments section of this program. But one of the things that, to provide a context, uh, SAD, seasonal affective disorder, is something they say is really seasonal. Is typically mild for most people. Most people may feel just a little depressed and a little upset and may change their rhythm, but some people get significantly suppressed. But when the weather changes, when the sun comes out and things go back, they adjust. Some of what we're talking about are people that have some chronic conditions in terms of mental health. And it's hard to pick up on that because they do well to mask them. Because what they're trying to do every day is fit in with everybody else. So they learn to fit in and they do an excellent job. That's why so many people are surprised when somebody commits suicide because most people never knew. There were no obvious signs or symptoms that this person had some kind of disorder or some kind of problem that they weren't sharing with people they work with every day. Even parents sometimes say, I didn't know this was happening to my child. And if I had known, I would intercede. I started off with talking about seasonal affective disorder because it's real and it happens. But what we're talking about now are sometimes who are these are people that are typically chronically depressed. They may have had some psychological or psychiatric problems historically, but they've learned to fit in with the rest of us. And so there's no obvious signs. So if you're looking for a sign or a symptom, it's likely that you won't see a sign or symptom. I think what Dr. Miller said is probably the most important thing. And I've mentioned this before that I saw this ad. This probably was around over 25 years ago. It was put in the newspaper by Advocate, and they talked about the most important piece of medical equipment that their physicians had. And I was shocked when I saw what the picture was. It was the human ear. It was a big ear, and that's what people need. You need to listen to what people are saying. And sometimes, if you listen closely enough, you'll hear pain undergirding those statements, or you'll see pain or angst in a person, and that opens the door to a different discussion. But it's hard to detect because people don't want to become ostracized because now they got a condition and people don't want to be around.
Yeah, I'll just mention. So we know, like Joe said, there should be a distinction between SAD or seasonal affective disorder and people who have chronic depression or major depressive disorder. But common symptoms of people with depression is this change in your eating habits, not eating, sleeping more than you usually do, or not sleeping. It could be this sense of overwhelming sadness. There are things that you enjoy doing, like let's say you enjoy watching some program and you haven't watched that in a long time. And this is one of my screening questions that I ask to tell if someone is severely depressed. But one of the most common signs that when someone's depression has gone to that next level where they might be at the stage of attempting suicide. And again, like Brother Joe said, there's really no way for you to tell for sure. But a real common sign is when people withdraw. When you haven't talked to them, they're not answering the phone. They're not posting like they used to. They're not answering the door. That's when your alarm bells have got to go off and you got to go to that next level, whatever that means. If it means calling a wellness check for the police, or if it means, and you have to tell them, I tell my friends on the phone, if you don't answer this phone, I swear I will, you know, and I'm gonna call the police. So you have to let them know, call me back because, and it's fine. You don't want to talk for a long time. That's okay. but I need to know you good. And so that's one of the signs you have to, it's that withdrawal. You have to make sure that the people are not taking it. And if they're writing cryptic messages on their Facebook, like long, kind of cryptic, like everything's gonna be all right, that kind of thing, that's a warning sign.
Yeah, I want to jump in because you made me remember some things that I learned when I was I worked in Lawndale Community Mental Health. That was one of my first, what I call real jobs. I worked in Lawndale Community Mental Health Center. I was a community mental health worker. I was in my early 20s, and I didn't even have a degree at that time. I was doing home visits. I was doing individual and group counseling, and I had a patient load. And looking back on that, the people that were severely, chronically depressed could barely walk. That's what real depression could hardly get out of bed, could not function because they were so depressed. So that's what real hardcore clinical depression is. Then there's an in between where it's not like that, and people mask it so nobody can see because they don't want to reveal that person to anybody else, and they get pretty good at it over time. But again, talking to people, listening to people, because that's what really people need, is they need someone to talk to and someone to listen. And we don't do a lot of that now. And we're probably much more careful about who we become friends with and the people we associate with. So that could lead to it. But what we start out talking about is seasonal in some respects. So that means there's a spurt that happens around fall and winter, and then when the sun comes out, people they get more vitamin D. They're moving around more, and it bothered them, but it doesn't bother them as much. But anybody that is chronically depressed does need help, but you may not know it just because you may never see them because they can't come out, or they're at a point where they're no longer functioning, so you'll never know. So we want to make distinction in that way. If you know somebody like that, and even if you know somebody that is whose mood is changing and not acting the same, you either want to have a discussion with them or call one of the numbers that have been listed. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, I just want to, just sort of agree with Joe in terms of that. Actually, depression and some of these other mental disorders can mimic almost anything. I mean, I remember during my practice, I saw patients who came in, and when I listened to their situation, they came in because they had been losing weight, and they talked to me about this and some of those things, and I said, oh yeah, in my head, I'm saying, yeah, this person got a malignancy somewhere, so I just got to find it. And we go through the process, and there's no malignancy, and I don't find other physical kinds of things that, and ultimately end up that the patient was suffering from depression. I mean, you don't want to, and I think the appropriate thing is to make certain that they don't have physical things such as a malignancy that you sort of you don't really evaluate. But I'm saying that these mental disorders can mimic the symptoms of them can mimic other kinds of processes. So when you see people losing weight and or gaining weight, or they're eating differently than what you've been seeing them do, that these might be soft signs that they're dealing with something mentally, whether it's depression or some other kind of disorder going on in their lives. And so at that point, it's time to talk and to listen and see if you can figure out ways that you may be helpful. And even if you got to understand that it isn't what you do in terms of necessarily the conversation, but to give them the right advice. Because sometimes people think that, well, I'm going to be all right, or you tell them, hey, stop worrying, you're going to be all right. But maybe making certain that they go to see a doctor or someone who is trained to deal with these particular issues is really what you can do the best.
Want to say hey to Connie Taylor, who's here with us this evening. She says, good evening to everyone. No, Dr. Pete, I have a question for you from one of our Instagram followers. But right before I read her question, I just want to say, if someone is giving they decide that they want to give away gifts Yeah, and it's things that they're cherished so by them. And all of a sudden they want to give everything away on one particular evening. That is also a sign. And you need to really look into that just as well. And remember, in our chat, we have some contact numbers. You can text, you can call, all of those things. And we are having a vibrant conversation about seasonal affective disorder. Our question off Instagram says, Dr. P, can some medications that we take cause us to have suicide thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are medications that can alter your neurotransmitters, which is the chemical that the serotonin that makes you feel more happy. So sure, there might be medications out there, and I would always encourage anybody, if you're taking the medication, to ask your doctor before you take the medicine, what might this have? What types of side effects does this medication have? Also, you also want to ask about drug interactions, because sometimes it's not the medication, but it's the medication in combination with another medicine. Then here's the other caveat to that, is not just that, but it's also the fact that you might have an underlying dysthymia, which is like a low level depression, and it only gets it's masked by this idea that you're normal functioning, right? But then once in combination with these two drugs can really tip you over to having a major depressive symptoms or disorder. So certainly there are medications that can alter that neurotransmitter and drop it really low. And then if you combine it with these other factors, maybe even SAD, the seasonal affective disorder, it can really put you in an arm's way.
Outstanding. Well, Valdemir Talley is here. Hey, Chief Talley, how are you? And he says, people usually hide those feelings. How can we get people to seek help? Well, while you guys are thinking about how to answer that question, I know some of you, we had some of our extended panel to join us a little later. Just want to make sure that to our newer viewers that we give them a brief introduction so you'll know who they are. Dr. Pete joined us once again. He is a staple host on the show. That's our family. Well, he's our internist and our infectious disease specialist by day, but he's our house music DJ by night. That's our very own Dr. Pete. We have Pastor Cy Fields here with us, who is that physician of faith from the new Landmark Missionary Baptist Church. And then we also have my colleague who tends to leave me and have fun in the sun, and he missed our snowstorm we had a few days ago, and that's our very own Dr. Douglas Graham. So Doug, introduce yourself real quick, then Pastor Fields, and then Pete or Maya, if you guys can grab that question that Chief Talley had of how can we get people to seek some help, that would be great.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm a retired physician. I worked until 2019, retired, and then spent 2 years working with Danny Davis in his office. So really an eye-opening experience, and it's a real honor and pleasure to be here on this panel and see what else I can do in public health.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm Pastor Cy Fields. As you mentioned, New Landmark Baptist Church, been pastoring now for 24 years, going on 24 years here on the great west side of Chicago. And always glad to be in conversation with you all on such wonderful topics. West side, there you go, Dr. Pete.
And my wife's from the west side. I'm just saying.
All right. I know she's blessed. She's blessed already. But as if I can, I know there's a question that you asked that's on the table, and this season, from a spiritual, from a faith standpoint, it is very often in my line of work, if you will, that the holiday season, post September, it's a lot of deaths, and this is a season I've officiated so many funerals, right? In this season, holiday season. And so, the topic at hand is so relevant and so important that all of us be mindful of in this season, when that empty chair is at the Thanksgiving table. Or even as I read a post just about 6:50 to this evening, someone put a post. It said, once the glue of the family passes away, holidays just aren't the same anymore. And I think that's just very vindicative of how a lot of people feel. And I think it was Dr. Pete that was speaking earlier. And I begin to think he was talking about depression when I got on, and I heard him mention the term depression. But I just want to encourage and lift up that oftentimes before depression, somebody's in this might be in a state of discouragement. Okay, and discouragement is one of those pre-levels that may be a pre-level to depression sometimes, right? And so therefore, if we can get next to somebody in that state of discouragement, right, and begin to help them there, maybe we can ward off this place of depression. So anyway, I know there's a question on the table. I didn't want to go down a side trail, but I just wanted to mention that.
Now, well, we thank you for that comment, but you be careful now because Dr. Maya Green is a lightweight bishop up there. She'll help you out a little bit. Go ahead.
Amen. Amen.
I was just thinking about that comment and just letting it hit. You, oh, you saw me like, A lot of times, we miss it. We miss it in our strong friends. A lot of times, because of societal reasons and the things we all have to do just to get through the day. Sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we see it coming and we don't want to deal with it. You know, we're like, okay, well, you'll be okay. You can handle it. You can, for a lot of reasons, right? But I thank you for saying that, because this is a reminder that for those of us that are called to do work in whatever form, you don't have to be a doctor, for a lot of us on here, being a doctor or being a public health person is the tool that we use to accomplish our purpose. It's not our purpose, right? And so a lot of times we get caught up in getting that tool and doing that versus missing the purpose. And this is a time of year where we all get to sit and say, hey, have I done everything I need to do? What can I do? So you bringing that comment to the table is a reminder to say, stop, focus on the purpose. And if, as we are, for lack of a better word, quickened to respond to our fellow humans, that are in that space, stopping it before. We talk about a lot about prevention, Pastor Simon, and what you just talked about was prevention. In medicine, we say, hey, get your vaccine, but you just talked about like, what can we do to keep our community out of that space, period. Those check-ins. And for a lot of people, they may look like it. I thought about how it relates to what Dr. Thomas was talking about. For a lot of reasons, our Black men, there's not a lot of that space. So what it sounds like they're doing? It sounds like they're like, oh, well, let's go exercise. And if you don't show up, I'm going, we're going to, engage in endearment. But that's their way of saying, hey, we see you and we want to see you and we want you to keep going. So you're going to have to get out that bed. You're going to have to shake that off and just come, and they do it together. And, there are all kinds of ways to doing it. I'm family medicine. So I'm always, I'm the one that's going to be like, hey, I noticed this happened. Do you want to talk about it? And some people are not like that. Some people are going to see you at the gym, look in your eye, and, and it's a form for everybody. It's a form for everybody, but this is an opportunity for us to check in, not only with ourselves to see what preventive things we can do, but check in with our family, friends, and see if we're stepping up to the plate for our tribe, because we protect us.
Yeah, I'd like to add some more context to this and some more nuance, because we got started on this thing called SAD, but and I took a quick look. A clinical diagnosis of depression refers to a mental health condition. That's a mental health condition, typically called major depressive disorder, where a person experiences persistent symptoms like low mood, loss of appetite, loss of interest, sleep disturbances, and feelings of worthlessness for at least 2 weeks, which impacts their daily life significantly and is clearly diagnosed by a healthcare professional based upon a clinical evaluation of their symptoms and history. And Dr. James Miller sort of alluded to that when he told the story of a patient that he thought had some kind of mental condition going on. No, first he thought it was physical, but after a while, I mean, this is what we're talking about in terms of clinical depression. That requires a professional. But you can tell when somebody is withdrawing and they're not the same person they used to be, that they probably need help. And that's when they need somebody to tell them that hopefully they can trust that maybe they want to make a call and get some help. Or maybe if you want to, I'll go with you. Because the last thing you want to do is to lose that person and then say, I never knew.
I
Joe,
wanted to go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Reverend Phil. Go ahead, Reverend Phil.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
you raise a point. And again, for those who have faith, I often lean on. I have a degree in counseling and what have you, and I always lean on Proverbs 11:14. Proverbs 11:14 that says, "In the abundance of counselors, there's safety." And I always lift that up because, again, as you all know, especially men, counselors or doctors, we kind of hold it off, we hold it back, but whatever we're going through. And so I like to lift up, amen, that it is in scripture that it's okay that we go to see a counselor, go to see someone for help, but also in the midst of this, um, um, we understand that there's a clinical part, but there's a faith part, there's a spiritual part to it. And I don't want to preach. I'm not going to preach. I just want to lift up a guy who lost his health, wealth, and his children, and that's Job. Can you imagine in one season he lost his health, his wealth, and his children, right? And so, but yet it was his grief was raw. If you read the text, he had raw emotions, but yet it was real. He said he sat in ashes, and he mourned his loss, right? And so it was real raw. And the doctors, in that narrative made how did you approach Job? But the thing that kept Job, and I don't want to preach, was that his faith kept him. He said, the Lord giveth, the Lord giveth, the Lord gave, the Lord taketh away. He said, blessed be the name of the Lord. He said, though you slay me, yet will I trust him. So I want to lift up in the midst of a lot of the clinical things that there's a spiritual side of it as well that can help you in this season, right, to make it through when you're feeling that sense of loss, that place of discouragement, and can ward off getting to that place of depression.
Yeah. Reverend Phil. So part of what I wanted to say kind of relates to what you were saying, is that there are oftentimes this feeling or thing that goes on in our community that certain kinds of problem people kind of feel that they're going to be ostracized if it's known that they have mental disorder. And we have to figure out a way that we can make people feel more comfortable in dealing with their problems, regardless of what they are. And I think that comes with conversation. It comes with education. And when I say education, education has to be everywhere, whether it's at church, whether it's in the doctor's office, whether it be in other gathering that we are gathering as friends, that we need to talk about things that we don't feel ashamed of being sick. There's, but sometimes people do feel ashamed to say that they have a mental disorder, or that even that their family member have a mental disorder. And these are things that we got to figure out ways that we can overcome, because hiding it, denying it, all these things become hindrance, and they're not helpful. As long as we're doing those things, it's not helpful to help people to get beyond and to get some kind of help and maybe even a cure for whatever is going on with them. So I think as a community, we have to really, really get lift that up. And I know we're doing some things, but we have to do it more intensely in terms of that, helping people to feel that you don't have to feel ashamed if you're sick.
Yeah, I just want to share. I recently had a medical student that was with me, and it's interesting. He was, trying to get a feel for outpatient medicine and things like that. And our first 3 patients, literally, when we walked in the room, just start crying, just crying. And they weren't there because they were feeling sad. They were there for high blood pressure, diabetes, and something like that. And they just start crying. And, And I had to, no, now I got real ministers on here, right? So I'm just be who I could be as a fellow human, right? That understands what it's like to feel overwhelmed, right? And it had nothing to do with the diabetes or anything like that. Just when they just expressed this feeling like it seems like the world is on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I was teaching this student to say, sometimes I don't care how much math and physics and biochemistry, all the stuff that you might learn. That stuff, now it's time for you to be a human being and reach out to this person to say, hey, it's going to be okay. It will be okay. And you may have to spend more time in that room, but literally the first 3 patients, and it was a wonderful opportunity to teach this future doctor that it takes a real heart. You got to have a real heart for this business. If you're just a smart guy that can pass all these exams, but you don't care about people, then go do something else. But you got to really care about people. And thank God we have resources. It's not many places, but we have mental health, behavioral health therapists there to help attend to their needs. And it's important that us as Black physicians to make it okay, because our community is so resilient, and we're prideful about that resilience, right? Like I can do it. I'm gonna do it, but it's like, how long can you do it? How long can you just shoulder that burden? And so as Black physicians, we should make it okay. Normalize saying it's okay that you need help right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. It's okay that you're crying. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. It's okay. And you can sit here as long as you want, but I just wanted to say it. I mean, that's happening more and more. This is real prevalent now. And so I think we need to still advocate for resources in our community so that we have places where people can go and get assistance.
Outstanding. Well, I know you guys are going to hate to hear my next comment, but it's time to go. I know you hate when I say it's our time, but I don't know how many of you remember a movie called Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice. You guys remember that? In that movie, one of the Wayans brothers would run through and go, message. He was trying to get a point across. He wanted to make sure you heard the message. So I got a message real quick. Check on your strong friends. That's what I want you to do. Remember to check on your strong friends. The people who you think can just carry everything. Just check on them. Sharonda says yes, and tell the kids, especially our boys, it's okay to cry. So Dr. Pete, thank you so very much. So yes, check on your strong friends. And it's okay to cry. So message, as we do on every Monday night, we go around our great panel and we say, your until next Monday. So usually I never have an until next Monday, but I'm going to share one today. For all of you who suffer from hypertension and diabetes, I know Thanksgiving is on Thursday. I know. But you do not have to eat an entire sweet potato pie. Do not overeat. Listen, the doctors already told you last week how they have an abundance of patients who come in the day after Thanksgiving because you have overeaten. Don't overeat. Do everything in moderation. Have a little bit. You can have a little bit. Have a little bit. Just don't overdo it. We want you here on next Monday. Oh, with that being said, Dr. Miller, you're until next Monday.
Okay, well, I think, we have to realize that we're all in this boat together. And if the boat get rocking too much, we all gonna suffer something from it. So we have to look at our community in that same way. Our friends, our family, is that look after each other. I know Pastor Fields is on here, but when they asked Jesus about which was the greatest of the commandment, he said, first love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy might. And second one is love others. So it's important that we love others, and that seems to be today that we are not holding up that commandment. But we got to love others. I think when we love others, we are more attentive, we care more, we are more supportive. So my thing is love others.
Outstanding, outstanding. Well, Dr. Pete, Dr. Miller says to love others. What's your until next Monday?
My until next Monday is number one, to set realistic expectations. I think sometimes we take on too much, and just lower the bar some. You know, even when my patients come in and say, "Doc, I'm gonna lose 50 pounds," and I said, "I don't want you to lose 50. I just want you to lose 4. You know, just 4, just 4. That's it, 4." So even in this feeling of wanting to be so happy, it's supposed to be the holiday. Why am I happy? Why not happy? It's like, okay, let's lower the bar. Let's lower the bar. Go for a walk. Go for a walk. Not a big walk, a small walk. I mean, take advantage of these small victories to make yourself feel like you accomplished something. Okay. Be around positive people. That's important. And be careful that this holiday you're not self-medicating with food and alcohol, because sometimes you're feeling sad and you want to take it out on that bucket of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, or Hennessy, or Jack Daniels, whatever it is. You got to know, be self-aware and understand, I'm not feeling well and I'm drinking. And that's one thing to like have fun with your family, and that's fine. But when you're drinking and eating as a result of wanting to feel that rush, you want to feel a dopamine rush, be careful of that. Okay. And then in the spirit of my line brother who's not here, he would say, now when you're eating, to avoid that sugar rush, eat the vegetables first. Eat the vegetables first. The greens, string beans, eat that first. Then eat your protein. Then eat the carb. And if you can, stick to one carb. So one carb, potato salad, or the dressing, or the yams, not all of them. Okay. So that's in remembrance of my brother who's low carb, low sugar. And so I just want to share that with y'all.
He is somewhere clapping right now.
I know he is.
You have no idea. Well, Pastor Fields, Dr. Miller said to look after each other. Dr. Pete said set realistic expectations, and positivity is the key. What you got?
Yeah, actually, 2 things. Before next Monday, I would say reach out before somebody fall out.
Come, you what? You better come on.
And then secondly, I would say to everybody, count your blessings. Count your blessings. And you realize you're more blessed and got more going on than you really realize. Just take time, pause, and count your blessings.
All right. Well, Doug, Dr. Miller says to look after each other. Pete says set realistic expectations and positivity is the key. Pastor Phil said count your blessings and to reach out before somebody pass out.
I want to shout out to Dr. Pete, because it's my impression that his patients wouldn't have cried in that office unless they thought he was open to it.
That part.
As human beings, we have to be open. And if you think that someone's in distress, I think you have to be open to it rather than closed-minded or put them down. So you got to reach out, you got to be open-minded, and you have to show that you care.
Outstanding, outstanding. Well, Joe, are you here? I know you were having some technical difficulties. Are you here, Joe?
Yeah, I'm here. It seems like my camera stopped working, but I'm still here, and I do have something to add to this part of the conversation. 2 things occurred to me, and actually, it was something that Dr. Miller said earlier. It took me back to a song that was popular several years ago by Bobby McFerrin. People probably remember "Don't Worry, Be Happy." And I'm going to remind people, don't worry, be happy is easier said than done. So most of us will get a little depressed, possibly angry, have some other emotions during this holiday season. So just temper that, because that's not who you are and the way you want to be. And I'm going to end by paraphrasing it, since Luke 2:14. I wish everybody peace on earth, goodwill to all.
All right. Well, Dr. 100, you're until next Monday.
I would say that the higher power you believe in is all around you and in you. You know, in our community, they talk about, why is our community so resilient? Why do we celebrate being strong? Are we resilient? Yes. Are we strong? Yes. Part of that, when I hear it, I know it's a fact, but part of it, when I hear it, I know it's also been placed on us to make us proud of it, and then associate some kind of obligation to what is a facade of strength, what is a facade of resilience, right? Be strong enough to acknowledge where you are, be brave enough to deal where you are, and love yourself enough to accept any kind of assistance that's out there, right? A lot of our thoughts about that we don't need therapy and we don't want to go to therapy and everything like that is, part of the design, right? We say therapy is for other people, and that therapy helps those people thrive. And so if you have that available to you, take advantage of everything. Therapy does not mean you don't have faith. Therapy doesn't mean, even Pastor Si mentioned Job. Job did seek counsel. Some of the counsel was good, some of it was not, but Job did seek counsel, But look, Pastor Si said Job lost his money. What else Job lose? Job lost his money.
Everything.
Job
He
lost
lost
his
everything.
job.
He lost his
Job
health,
lost
lost his
his
wealth,
status.
and his children.
He lost his status. He did seek counseling. And even with that counseling, what Job did not lose is his faith. Right? So if you have that faith, y'all, it's one of them times I feel like singing. So I have a faith that sees the invisible, expects the incredible, and feels the intangible. Faith that can conquer anything. So have that faith.
The singing physician. All right now, Dr. Maya. I love it. I love it. Want to say hey to the Core Center. I did not forget that you all were here. They are working. They are working, and they're just listening while they're working. Want to say hey to the people over at the detention center. Want to say hey to you. Want to say hey to Audrey J. Cox, who's here. She said, come on, Dr. 100. That's right, Maya. Also to the Core Center. The Core Center says, Congressman, are you and Nikki ill? We're not really ill. This is what the problem is. Nikki has asthma, and the change of weather has got me. So I've been drinking a lot of tea, and I see that you put that in our thing to say drink tea and everything. And the congressman that flying back and forth, the little bug is trying to run behind him, but it's not going to catch him. We're all on top of this. We'll be 100. I'm 99.5 right now. I'm going to be 100 by tomorrow. But we are all on top of it. I want to say thank you so much for caring about us, and just to even notice the differences in our voices and our actions, to know that we are going to defeat this. It's not going to hold us, but this is just asthma. It does it all the time, but we're going to get right in front of it. Well, I want to make just a couple announcements for you really quickly. We will be having a coat giveaway at our office. More information to come. We will have the exact dates and everything for you tentatively. If you can mark your calendars for December 21st tentatively, but we will make sure we have all of those additional information for you coming soon. Also want to remind you of December 30th, which is going to be our office open house. You will be welcome to come by, meet, greet, talk to us, and maybe have a crumpet or two at our office. That will be an all-day event. That will be Monday, December 30th. And then also, we do not want you guys to forget December 1st, and that is World AIDS Day. We will be having a great press conference and small award ceremony. at one of our newer facilities in our area that will be open. The congressman has made so many strides in World AIDS Day, and we have a charge to get to no positives by 2030. We will also be honoring some of our doctors who are here. So Dr. Pete, answer your emails because you was nominated to be honored for that time. And that's on December 1st. That's a Sunday, December 1st at 10:15 in the morning at 600 North Cicero. At 600 North Cicero at the New Life is Work facility. The congressman will be there, so we just want to make sure that you guys know, come out and learn how we can make our communities so much more safer. So join us for those great things. Landmark is having some type of giveaway. We have Jay who is watching. We call him Jay the DJ, but he is also a member at New Landmark, and he sent a message. He wanted to make sure that we did not forget to talk about the clothes giveaway that they will be doing at the church. It will be clothes and shoes and things like that they will be giving away. So I guess by next Monday, Pastor Fields can have all of that detailed information for us as always. So Congressman, take us home. Oh, wait 1 second, having a little difficulty. There you go, Congressman.
The real deal is if you would have the faith of a mustard seed and keep on pushing, that is back from the table, in all likelihood, you'll do all right. Great discussion, great period of time, wonderful holiday season. I was privileged last Friday night. Of course, Reverend Fields and I were at the homegoing celebration of Dr. Wilson Daniels. And of course, Pastor Fields got a little carried away. And he didn't say he didn't come to preach that night, because he did preach. But we all will miss, of course, Dr. Daniels. And just enjoy the holiday season. Hopefully we'll see all of you next week. We'll all be well, healthy, and getting ready for 2025. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Right.
All right.
God bless everybody.